Hi there folks, welcome to RRTV's live coverage of the ANZCAR Thursday Night Thunder Series, coming to you live from Talladega for round 12. As you can see folks, the drivers are out there doing their warm-up, and we have 16 drivers in the server at the moment. We're expecting a few more to pop in the next 10 minutes before qualifying commences. But before we get into that, as always, we've got a bit of a pre-race show for you, and we're going to start off tonight with the truck highlights. Let's see how the trucks went at Talladega last Monday night.
Hello and welcome to ANZCAR's round 12 of the Monday Night Truck Series, brought to us by 131 Web Radio. As mentioned, this is the 12th round. We're here at Talladega. Gavin Sadler marking his return to the series with a well-earned pole position, with the ever-reliable Matt Danson there joining him on the front row. As the pack gets away, we had 16 drivers taking part tonight, and usual suspects there at the front. We've got Gavin Sadler leading, Humphries there, Danson on the outside, Maxfield tucked in behind him. They continued very much in this vein for the first 4 laps of the race. Steve Hoppett up there just tucked in behind Danson, Maxfield trying to give Humphries a little bit of a shove along, and you can see Shields in there, and I believe that's number 57, Leo Smith, in behind him. Number 17 of Gavin Windsor running quite strongly there, but you can see Schmidt just getting loose there, knocking into the number 5 of Aaron Dillon. That sent Danson flying, Robbie's involved, and the big one came very, very early for this particular race here at Talladega, and you can just see the actual cause of it there. It looks like Dillon may have just got up into Schmidt, which has pushed him wide, back down and up, and that's kicked the whole thing off. Steve Hoppett there involved. It looks like Robbie getting into Gavin Windsor just out of sympathy there, almost trying to avoid it all. Callow involved. Carolyn Upton potentially involved there as well. So on the restart, Gavin Sadler leading away again, Maxfield, Humphries up behind him, and Ash Lear working his way from sort of mid-pack, just trying to move his way up to join his teammate Mitchell McLeod, who has got himself into a very good position there, up in amongst the top group. Maxfield taking the lead. I'm not sure if he's actually led an ANZCAR race before, so this will be a good moment for him if it is actually the first time. And the trucks after that, we had a long green flag run, and they actually started to break up into their own little packs, depending on how much damage they were carrying. Some of the guys carrying a bit of aero damage, not able to keep up with those front runners as much as they normally would. Here are those front runners. We've got McLeod now having taken the lead over from Maxfield. Sadler still in there, Shields there, Humphries there, all running together, while we've got Dillon and Callow both carrying damage and trying to catch up to that pack, trying in vain. 2 guys are never going to run together as fast as a whole train of guys can run together. So, and here's that lead battle again. We've got Nicholas Walsh joins in there, and I believe Jason Nicholas in there also, joining Humphries and Gavin Sadler in that particular pack. 3 trucks just running line astern here, Maxfield, McLeod and Shields, and they would split up into 2 packs as Steve Hoppett just goes a lap down there. They're actually broken up into two packs. We've got a pack of 3 and also that pack of 5 there. Sadler was the first to blink, going for the green flag pit stop. He's come out, Steve Hoppett coming out with him. One of the things you definitely want to do is Jason Nicholas makes a bit of a sausage of his pit entry there. Humphrey's doing quite a good job to avoid him. You don't want to pit alone here. You want to be pitting with people, as these guys have done, so when you come out on the track, you've got people to run with you. As you can see, Shields there just making a bit of a mistake, overshooting his pit bay. Very, very easy to do. So McLeod has actually left the pits in front, a long way in front. He pitted alone, and now he's running alone, and it's just a matter of time now before the pack, consisting of these 2 among others, actually begin to chase him down. See a couple of the more damaged trucks there just trying to limp around and get to the end, while McLeod continues to lead on his own. Jason Nicholas running quite there alone too, but a pack did form. Sadler, Humphries, and that's also the number 16 of Will Barrington in there as well. So they're all running together. Of course, the more guys you have running together, the faster you're going to go. And Rodney Morris making his presence known, making an impact on this race now for just about the first time, coming up and challenging Todd Maxfield there. Steve Hoppert still running fairly well given the amount of damage that he's got. You can see Ash Lear just doing his best to push Rodney Morris along and taking Maxfield there past the injured Tundra of Jason Nicholas. On board here with Mitchell McLeod as he just looks to get that side draft off the two next to him, running up next to Humphreys, and I believe that maybe it is Sadler on the inside there too, just trying to hook into the aero there and keep pace because no one was actually running with him on the outside. These two managed to get into each other. Dylan and Callow managed to get into each other again. There was nobody else around them. They just managed to get into one another, and that's actually brought out another caution as those two have recovered their positions. On the restart, Humphreys, McLeod, Sadler and Walsh. Sorry, not a restart, just dodging the accident there. Once we did get going again, same group up there at the front, Barrington just leading this group comprising Hoppert, Sadler, Walsh and I believe it was Humphreys, as Dylan now just tries his best to keep well out the way and bring that wounded truck home. The pack did start to spread out a little bit, but there are still quite a few trucks running in very close company as they just dive down the inside of Callow, so obviously driving around in that wounded truck there. Another one who's just trying to make it home. Hoppert hanging onto the back of these ones despite being a couple of laps off the pace at this stage, I believe. And you can see Mitchell McLeod there just doing his best to hold that outside line. He is up there alone at the moment, but he's just trying to use that aero to keep along with them. So once the pack has managed to all gather back up, you can see a number of trucks running there together, and that truck looking very second-hand, the truck there of Robbie carrying a lot of aero damage. He's had quite a good season, but this was not his race at all. So here it is, the lead pack running into the dying lap. So Humphreys had a good lead there, and it looks as though Sadler and Shields just managed to get together. That's actually brought out the caution once more. On the restart, Humphreys continued to lead from Morris, Maxfield and Mitchell McLeod, getting an excellent jump there on the outside and probably really a move that would set up the rest of the race for him as Sadler manages to get into Walsh. I believe the green flag stayed out for that, and it's allowed everyone to continue on unhindered. Now this is the point. You can see Ashley Lear and Mitchell McLeod, those two talking trucks running together around the outside. Maxfield sees them coming, tries to get up in front of them, and I believe Humphreys tried to make his way up as well, and it's actually turned the pair of them. And you can see on board here with Steve Hoppert, he was a little way behind that pack, just punching through the smoke there and managing to get around. And that actually there was the closest finish. Look at that between McLeod and Morris. That was the margin of victory, 0.009 seconds as they ran there through to the end. People still banging and barging as they cross the line. Ashley Lear did manage to get up there into third place for Talk Inc. Rodney Morris very unlucky to finish second. You saw how close that was, and Mitchell McLeod adds another race victory to his tally. There's got to be quite a few of those by now, but this I doubt that there would have been any closer than that. So next week we are off to Dover for the second last round of the series. Matt Danson did wrap up the championship tonight despite his poor finish. There isn't anybody else out there that can actually beat him with only 2 rounds to go. So congratulations to him, congratulations to Mitch, and we will see you next week.
So there you go, folks. That was Edward Foster bringing you the highlights of the Monday Night Truck Series, brought to you by 131 Web Radio. Next week we go to Dover, but let's have a look at the points as they finished last Monday night, and we'll get an update now. So Matt Danson, he pretty much wraps up the championship on 526 points. Second is Nicholas Walsh, sitting in second on 404 points. Todd Maxfield sits in third on 396 points, with James Robbie in fourth position on 386 points. Steve Hoppert having a little bit of a rough night there, but he's still in fifth on 353 points. Nicholas Shields in sixth, 340 points. Michelle Callow sits in seventh on 328 points, with Ashley Lear up into eighth position on 242 points. Didn't see much of Sam Katakazinos Monday night, but he's sitting in ninth on 227 points, and Mirko Dortnack, he rounds out the top 10 on 204 points. So that was your wrap-up of the Monday night racing, folks. The other one was the K&N series. They pretty much wrapped up their series Tuesday night, and the final top 10 was that Danny G. He took out the prize, 480 points. Stephen Williams close behind in second on 461 points. Joshua Carroll-Walden, he finished in third on 426 points, with Todd Maxfield in fourth on 404. And rounding out your top five is Dwayne Priest on 397 points. So that's pretty much how the K&N series finished. We've got a couple more rounds here of the Thursday Night Thunder. Tonight, Talladega, of course. Expect a lot of action based on what we saw on Monday night. You can see the guys are out there doing some bump drafting practice and getting ready for those big drafts. But I don't want to spoil it too much, because I'll introduce you to your commentary team tonight, and that is Steve Hoppert and Ryan Shelton.
Yeah, g'day Bernie, how you going? G'day to Ryan, and g'day to all the viewers out there. Looking forward to a great race tonight. How you doing tonight, Ryan?
Doing pretty well. You know, just chilling and hoping for the best.
Oh, it's about the best you can do, mate. Just do your best, and we'll see some great racing. Should keep us excited tonight. I've got a feeling that we're going to see plenty of action here.
Yeah, with it being Talladega, you know, it's always a crazy mess, especially the last couple of laps of the race. So we'll see if we can even make it to then before we have too many of these guys get wrecked out.
Yeah, well, it's another level over Monday night, and these guys have they're usually pretty switched on. Most of them know what they're about. It's a matter of whether anybody gets a bit of a rush of blood and decides to sort of go for it. I suppose that could cause a few issues, but I'm expecting a couple of green flag periods. I'm hoping there's not too many, and we get a lot of caution periods, and we get a lot of green flags, Ryan.
Yeah, when you get a bunch of green flag racing, that's when you'll start to see these guys just kind of hug the bottom all the way around the track, you know, just kind of turn in laps. But then the interesting part will be, the pit stop cycle. That's going to be the really interesting part, because you can't pit by yourself, so you have to pit with other people. So the teammates aspect is really going to help out some of these drivers. And then also, a lot of times, you're just going to have to react to whoever else is racing with you around you. So if they pit, you pit, sort of thing. So it'll be interesting to see that.
Yeah, it'll be best if they actually do manage to pit together or in packs. As we see a lot of wall brushing there going from this mob. I think that was Dwayne Priest actually doing a fair bit of rubbing against the wall as he runs around there with some of the other guys in practice before qualifying.
Yeah, it looks like they're just trying different lines. You know, it's always good to try different lines, especially here at the plate tracks, but it seems to be it's just going to be a bottom line hugger, and if you can get a good run on the outside, you can make a pass. These cars draft extremely well with each other. They're not like the A-class car where it's kind of like the draft model isn't all there, but these cars, they draft really well together, and it's a lot of fun to race these cars, especially on these plate tracks.
Yeah, what I'll be interested in seeing is how the guys who start on the outside row will actually approach the first couple of laps of this race. Obviously, starting on the outside, it's a minor disadvantage, but it doesn't have to be, depending on how you drive and where you sit and place the vehicle behind the guy in front. So it'll all come down to the two guys on the front row and how they actually get started tonight.
Yeah, especially on that outside, you really want to pay attention to where the leader is on the restart or the start itself. Because what happens, like earlier this week, I ran one of these races, and I was in the second position, so I started on the outside, and I just waited a 1/10 of a second after the leader went, and I gassed. I just floored it, and as soon as I saw that there was a gap in between the first and third place car, I just dropped in and kept on the bottom and held right behind the leader, and it kept me out of trouble. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be a matter of patience. Obviously, it's going to take some patience if you're starting on the outside. There is nowhere to go down low in the first few laps, depending on how the guys line up, of course. But patience is going to be a bit of a key. Everybody wants to be on that low line in the draft. They need to sort themselves out with some draft, and as you said, pay attention to who's around them and how they've placed it. But just wait. The chance will come to move down low if that's what you really want to do. And I think that was part of the problem on Monday night in the trucks, where there may be a little bit of a lack of patience. I think there may have been a few guys who perhaps had made some changes to their steering ratio, and I felt maybe some of the cars looked very loose. Some of the trucks looked very loose. So it'll be interesting to see who does what here tonight, who gets to qualify on the inside row and who's on the outside, and of those outside guys, who's going to have a little bit of patience. But really need to actually mention there's some very special liveries out there tonight. In Australia and New Zealand, we've just had Anzac Day, which commemorated the 103rd anniversary of the Australian-New Zealand Anzac, which is the Australian-New Zealand Army Corps World War I troops, and those who have come since, World War II and the other wars, Vietnam, etc. And the Riley Curtis design RCD Racing running special liveries for that tonight, Ryan.
Yeah, it's always cool to see different countries support their military. I myself was in the United States Air Force, so it's really cool to see, see that kind of stuff happen all around the world. Even, it's not for me or not for America, but it's for an ally, so I can still be accepted in it.
Well, it's nice that RCD are actually running those liveries. They're all slightly different. They've all got a camouflage theme, but in the various colours of the different branches of the armed service. So that's going to be interesting to see how long before those liveries get a little bit banged up.
Hopefully they stay clean for the whole race. The best way around this track is to not have any kind of aero damage at all. And so if you have aero damage, you probably are gonna be having some issues.
Yeah, I felt that on Monday night. So the guys are heading out for qualifying at the moment. But yeah, the aero is going to be all important tonight. It's a super speedway, and you can get away with a certain amount and sometimes even a great deal of aero damage at tracks like Bristol, Martinsville, places like that. Even at Charlotte, you can get away with a certain amount. But this is Talladega, and it's a completely different can of worms. If your aero is all bent out of shape, you are going to suffer here. So, but at the moment, they're all straight, they're all clean, and they're all out there to try and see what they can pull off in the qualifying run, Ryan.
Yeah, so what you're going to see is these guys on their warm-up and their first lap, they're just going to run all the way up against the wall. What it's going to do is it's basically going to turn these cars into a catapult. Like with the whole catapult, or if you have like a rock on a string and you throw it as fast as you can around you, it's going to stay about parallel with you. So what it's going to do is it's going to create the most amount of speed as they can get, and once they get that to their top speed, for their second lap they'll drop down to the bottom and they'll hug that yellow line for the entire lap, and that's going to give you your best time.
Yeah, just watching Phil Otto, he was the first one out, and I don't think I think he's about to actually register his first timed lap, so it'll be interesting to see what Phil can come up with. We've also got a few other guys out there. I believe Dave Douglas is out there on the track at the moment, Ryan.
Yeah, he's going to be one of those in the Riley Curtis design cars. He's looking like he's driving the, looks like some sort of navy colors there. It's the more of the white and blue car you'll see from the number 10 of Dave Douglas.
Well, I'm a little bit surprised. Well, we've got our first lap from Phil Otto, 54.392, but very surprising. I didn't see the lap, but Matt Clowett has actually, he's put in a first timed lap of a 101, and I find that he must have had a bit of a slip, gotten a bit of loose there somewhere around the track. And Thomas Hinds, a 54.2. And Daniel Stevens, they're all starting to roll in now, 53.9 from Daniel.
Yeah, so what happened with Matt Clowen is that when he went on his first lap, he went out to qualify, and it's actually your first lap doesn't count here because the start line is after the pit road, so they give you 2 flyer laps. But what he did is he went out, and then I believe he may have tapped the wall or something because he came back in and then went back out. And because he passed the line twice, it started that lap and counted it. So his lap is going to be really slow.
Right, yeah, because I'm not used to seeing it count that out lap. So I figured he must have just had a bit of a moment there on his first time lap. But James Zeitz is actually looks like he may have done the same thing, Ryan. He's put in a 102.2. But provisional pole at the moment, Dave Douglas with a 53.471 and Mirko Doutnak, 53.4 right behind him. So be interesting to see. But we've got a few guys haven't actually run their laps yet. Josh Micklemore and Jason Martin, Bruce Smith, Stephen Williams, Roger Clark, Riley Curtis and Edward Foster all yet to register a lap.
Yeah, and Dave Douglas, like we were talking about earlier, does have that top spot. But here at Talladega, I think qualifying is probably the most important thing. Especially some of these guys might want to actually start in the back, because a lot of times one of the strategies that some of the guys use is that they'll start in the back and just kind of roll along. Just let the laps wind down and wait for the big one. That's inevitable. We'll probably have a wreck that takes out somewhere between 6 and 12 cars, somewhere in that range, and we'll call that the big one. And those guys want to avoid that, so they'll just stay in the back and wait for that to happen and gain their time back from there.
Well, that's it. I mean, sometimes actually starting from around about 5th is quite often sometimes an advantage, because you've got 2 guys in front of you straight off the start that you can sit behind and draft with, and all they're going to do is just cut the air in front of you, and 5th puts you on the inside row. So on the inside line, and even 6th place on the outside, you're in the same situation with a couple of guys in front of you can draft with for those first few laps, while everybody sorts out where they're going to be and how they're going to approach the rest of the race, because we've got 85 laps around here, Ryan.
Yeah, but also being back in 5th place can be a detriment too, because if you go out there and you're in 5th place, and let's say the guy is in 8th place decides to go 3 wide, he's 3 wide on your lane. So now you're 3 wide in the middle of a pack, and you have almost nowhere to go. So Talladega is another one of those tracks, like we were talking a couple of weeks ago at Bristol. It's you're not going to have anywhere to go. You're not going to be able to hide. The only place you're going to be hide is be able to be in the back. And if you're in the back, you better hope that you have some people around you, or else you're going to get lapped in a hurry, because you're running almost 2-3. Actually, no, it's going to be about 4.5 seconds slower than what you'll be running in the draft. So 4.5 seconds over a 50-second lap is going to be really a lot.
It's a painful thing to go through. That was the thing on Monday night. The truck didn't look as badly damaged as it felt. In fact, my comment to someone on the radio, they said, "Oh, that doesn't look like it's all that badly damaged, Steve." And I said, "You ought to see it from where I'm sitting," because the front guard and the bonnet looked like they were sticking up. But on the video, I could see it didn't appear to be that bad. But it was costing me up to 9 miles per hour on every lap. And that 9 miles per hour, that's damage to aero. It means space. It means not enough speed to keep up with the guys in front, who might be in a pack of anything from 3 to 7. And you're on the downward slide straight away, and it makes it twice as much work to try and keep up or get somewhere in the race, especially around this place with such long laps.
Yeah, especially here, 9 miles an hour, that is going to be a lot, because it's a constant 9 miles an hour. It's not like you get a chance to brake or, have a corner where you have to lift off. No, the whole time you're on the throttle. It's 100% throttle 100% of the time. and it's not. It doesn't let up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, this is somewhere where you've got the foot down, you keep it buried, but you've got to keep your eyes on. You've got to watch the guys around you, or if you end up you get separated from the main pack, you've got to be alert of what's going on ahead of you. I mean, if you're even with that damage, you're doing 170 miles an hour at a place like Talladega. Somebody has a moment up ahead. They can be spinning, there could be smoke. You've got to be aware of what you're driving into at that sort of speed. So there's all sorts of variables in this. The guys who won't have damage and who have got the speed will obviously set the pace. And the guys who have got a bit of damage and they've just dropped a few miles per hour and they don't quite have the pace to catch up with that lead group, they're going to be needing to be on the ball. And it's very easy to get fatigue around here if you're running around on your own.
Yeah, it is very easy to get fatigued, but one of the craziest things is Jason Martin. You know, a track where driver skill is not as important, and it's more or less the car, and all the cars are the same. It's just kind of a chance and luck that you get the right run. Jason Martin comes out and gets pole again. It's crazy. It's just about every single race except for Road Atlanta. I believe he's gotten the pole every single race. So even here at Talladega, where it's all just about, you know, just keeping your foot to the floor and holding the yellow line, he manages still to get first place.
Well, I think those times for the first 4, 5, 6 guys pretty much illustrates what it takes to get pole and actually get a good time around here. I mean, you know, at some tracks you're talking tenths. I mean, this place you're talking hundreds, if not thousands of a second. I mean, Jason's sitting on pole with a 53.469, and Dave Douglas so far sitting behind him on a 53.471. That's less than 0.02 of a second.
Yeah, and even if you go through the entire field is less than 0.4 away from each other. So it's not, and it would be a lot closer if James Zeitz and Matt Cloet didn't have the timing issue that they had. It would be within 0.2 of a second. So it's going to be a wild race for sure.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at Matt Cloet's obviously had a not the best of second laps either, because he managed to start out of 18th with a 54.557, which has put him the best part of a second behind James Zeitz. But now it comes down to it. That time really means nothing because he's going to grid up. They're going to be bunched up, and he's got the opportunity to make good on that and turn it around.
Yeah, it's going to be real hectic here. And so I guess now the pace car is out there. Everybody's starting to grid up. And it looks like Josh Micklemore decided to start in the back of this race, not taking the timing. So we'll have 19 cars starting out this race here. And I guess we'll run down the order here, Steve.
Yeah, no worries. I'll throw out the first top 10 if you like. Jason Martin on pole position for this round at Talladega, and then Dave Douglas in second, Edward Foster behind him. Bruce Smith starts out of 4th position, Mirko Doutnak in 5th, Craig Lawless in 6th place, and Dwayne Preece in 7th. Behind him sits number 98 Stephen Williams, and Kai Sloggett sitting behind him in 9th position, and rounding out the first 10 and the first 5 rows is Danny G, Daniel Greskovics, who's sitting in 10th there, and he qualified with a 53.531.
Yeah, behind them, starting out in the 6th row, you have Phil Otto and Roger Clark. Behind them is Darren McKinney and Rylas Curtis. Daniel Stevens will start out in the 15th with Thomas Heens in the 16th position. James Zeitz and Matthew Cloet, we both noted them having timing issues of their own. They will start out in the 17th, 18th. And on the final row by himself, Josh Micklemore will start out in the 19th position.
which may not necessarily be a bad thing. It's obviously a ploy because he didn't bother to actually qualify. So it's obviously where he wants to start from. He may be expecting that there's going to be a bit of action in that first couple of laps. He can see what everybody else is doing from there. He's in the box seat, and he's got plenty of opportunity to take advantage of situations and make up some spots, see the accidents before he gets to them and stuff like that if there is an incident. If there isn't, he's probably going to be hard pushed to get through in the first few laps. It's going to take him a while. So I'm guessing that Josh Mickelmore is actually banking on there being a caution period early.
Yeah, and I think he might just want to just kind of sit back and relax because this is going to be a very long race. 85 laps is a really long time around here. It's actually half the distance of the full length race that the Cup guys do. So we're gonna be here for a little while.
Oh yeah, he's got plenty of time to sort out what he's doing, and the lights are out on the pace car, so we'll be going to racing very, very shortly, Ryan.
Yeah, and starting out on pole is Jason Martin, the restart man, the guy who normally starts in this position. So he's had a lot of practice being here. Dave Douglas does not have a whole lot of practice starting in second position, so we'll see where he goes. And Jason Martin is gone. Biggest thing here is you do not want to take a huge lead. You definitely want to stay backed up to the guys behind you just to kind of keep yourself from getting drafted on. You can kind of see everybody's just kind of giving everybody room, which is exactly what we want to see.
Yeah, there's already a little bit of a gap after you get the first, 2, 4, 6, then there's a slight gap back to 7th, and they've got a little bit of a conga line going there with that already. But yeah, we've got that front pack, and now they seem to be closing the gap up just ever so slightly to the front runners at the moment.
Yeah, Dave Douglas, like I mentioned just at the start of the race, Dave Douglas will take the lead currently for the first lap, and then it looks like Bruce Smith wants to lead, so everybody wants to lead. There's already been 2 lead changes within 1 lap, and we're going to see who's going to lead this first lap as they come down to the line. It will be the 15 of Bruce Smith who will lead the first lap here at Talladega.
And Craig Lawless up behind Bruce Smith at the moment with Dwayne Prieston behind him. And then we've got the number 3 car also coming in behind. There's an MFR car there. I think it might be Norman Clark. Didn't see the number on the car, Ryan.
Yeah, there's all just kind of lined up right now. So for me, it's kind of hard to figure out where everybody is because their positions will change every single lap.
Yeah, actually, that's Roger Clark in the car that I was looking at the time, but didn't quite catch the number. But yeah, Bruce Smith has dropped back just a little bit now with Daniel Stevens still leading Jason Martin away. And we've got Edward Foster in behind Jason Martin, who's sitting alongside Craig Lawless. Bruce Smith still sitting there level with Jason Martin. And yeah, they're all getting the job done at the moment. They know where they're going. They know where they want to be sitting. And they all obviously making their plans for later on in the race.
Yeah, everybody's just kind of looks like they're a lot more aggressive than I was expecting them to be because they lined up single file and then they got back to double file. As you can see, Dave Douglas is now leading this pack on the bottom here. But as soon as Jason Martin hops up like that, he's going to make it 3 wide, and he's going to have no help. He's about to drop way back if nobody helps him. And how fast he's been this year, not sure if people are going to help him out, but he's going to have to work his way back.
Yeah, my mistake. Actually, I said that was Daniel Stevens up the front. Of course, it was Dave Douglas who's now battling it out with Bruce Smith for the lead, with Jason Martin just sitting there as they go 3 wide up the back straight.
Yeah, Jason Martin is actually keeping himself together, and it looks like he's going to have some help here from, looks like one of the RCD guys. Looks like maybe, who is that in the center there? There's a lot of cars. We're all 3 wide.
Yeah, I think that might actually be Edward Foster. Yeah, I think it's Edward Foster sitting in. No, Edward's sitting there, so it must be Riley Curtis.
Yeah, it's Riley Curtis down there in the middle. So it looks like we do have one DNF so far. Daniel Stevens. He looks to have some car trouble of some sort. So he currently is not on the racetrack. Currently have 18 cars out on the track as Bruce Smith is going to try to take this lead from Dave Douglas.
Yeah.
Biggest problem for him is going to have to it's going to be that number 21. Jason Martin is right behind him too.
Yeah, at the moment, further back in the pack, Kai Sloggett in the number 3 car has actually got his hands full with Thomas Hinz and Dwayne Priest, and they're battling it out mid-pack there at the moment as well. Stephen Williams in the number 98 on the inside line has got Danny G right behind him. As the leaders continue to just sort out who's actually going to cross the line ahead of everybody else by mere millimetres.
Yeah, biggest thing right now is they've got some teammates lined up right now. The RCD guys, you've got the 10 of Dave Douglas, the 52 Edward Foster, they're lined up on the bottom. And then the 93 Riley Curtis is right on the outside of them. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can get lined up and maybe just kind of form their own bottom lane and kind of block everybody and make everybody else run around them. I know that's what Joe Gibbs' cars did at Daytona last year, 2017. As they did, is kind of hooked the bottom and made everybody else try to pass them up top.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of 2x2 running here. We only had a little bit of a 3-car wide situation earlier, and the guys are not tempting fate with that at this point. It's still early. They know there's a long way to go. So they're just sort of feeling each other out at the moment and waiting for those opportunities to come. But except for that little moment a little while ago with just a single 3-car wide situation, they are sticking to the 2 wide, and that's going to keep it green for quite a while. And we'll just see who actually blinks first, Riley.
Yeah, currently they're still hustling too. These guys are driving at a very crisp 310 to 320 kilometers an hour, depending on what kind of a push they get. Bruce Smith topped out at 320 on the backstretch when Jason Martin gave him a nice little slam. And Bruce Smith is trying to push the buttons there. He's trying to get down on the bottom and just go ahead and give Dave Douglas, a little bit of a nudge there, but it almost got bad there.
Yeah, well, you got Edward Foster sitting in the second row of that group of cars as Bruce Smith has taken the chance to drop down to the low line ahead of Dave Douglas in that beautiful RCD Anzac livery.
Yeah, so what Bruce is trying to do, he's trying to block both lanes to keep that lead for himself. He wants to make sure everybody has that lead, or make sure everybody knows that he's a leader. So what he'll do is when they get back on the backstretch, he'll make sure to block the 21 of Jason Martin going down the backstretch, because the bottom line is where you want to be for the corners, and then the top line is where you want to be for the straightaways. But what it's going to end up doing is, especially since he's got a teammate right behind him on the Dave Douglas, it's just they're just going to push each other, and it looks like he's going to lose the position to Jason Martin. So it probably wasn't the best thing for him to do that.
Yeah, Jason's happy to sit there at the moment. He knows his chances will come. I mean, he's playing the long game, I think. He knows he can't win it in the first, 20 laps. So he's done it all before. These guys know what they're about. So, but yet they're running nice and close. They're keeping it clean. They're keeping it tidy. Having said that, I hope I just didn't jinx them. But Bruce Smith's still fighting alongside Jason Martin. He's got Dave Douglas behind him, and Edward Foster behind him, then Mirko Doutnak. That's all that's the first 4 cars on the inside line. Jason Martin has, I think it's, there's that Riley Curtis behind him, and then I think there's Roger Clark in behind him, and then Stephen Williams, Dwayne Priest. No, it's not Kai Sloggett. Kai Sloggett's further back behind Stephen Williams. That's Roger Clark sitting in behind.
Oh, huge wreck.
And he's gone.
15 of Bruce Smith has wrecked himself trying to hit the block, and luckily he collected nobody else. So far, it looks like he may have collected a car in the very back. James Zeitz got collected in that, who was running last there. But unfortunately, we do now have our first caution due to incident. Bruce Smith trying to do the blocking out there and didn't really work out for him.
Yeah, we're going to go back to the replay. We're going to have another look at that as we try and see what actually took place there. And Bruce Smith obviously made a mistake in that one. And I'm just trying to see what's happening with it now.
Yeah, so it looks like Bruce Smith tried to go from the bottom to go back up to the top to block Jason Martin, but he just was not clear, as you see here. Just the front of Jason Martin just tags him, and he spins out and hits the wall head on, and that car is going to be done for the night. There's very heavy front end damage, very heavy roof damage, and very heavy rear end damage too. So, and a lot of side damage. There's not a straight panel on that car.
Yeah, no, that's yeah, pretty much that's Bruce's race done. He may pit and go back out for get some points, but as far as being competitive tonight's concerned, I think that's pretty much put paid to that one, Ryan.
Yeah, yeah, his race is going to be pretty much over for tonight. You know, even if he does get that bodywork fixed, it's just his car is going to be so slow it's not even going to be useful. So it looks like 4 cars are going to stay out. Jason Martin is going to lead these guys down pit road. Going to be the first guys down pit road. See if anybody gets changed up here in the pits. It looks like we had Roger Clark take 2 tires there, and that's going to push him up the field. He's going to take 2 tires and fuel, and Dwayne Priest is going to get out just in front of Edward Foster. Edward Foster came down second, so he's going to lose at least 1 spot, maybe another one to the pits also. So, and Thomas Heads has moved up pretty well. He started in 16th position, now is running 10th. James Zeitz is currently showed our largest mover. But he has damage on that car, and I believe he's just going to wait until the race or till the next caution period to take that caution lap.
Yeah, of the 4 cars out there, the 2 sitting behind the pace car at the moment are both Riley Curtis design racing vehicles, which of course is Dave Douglas and Riley Curtis himself, with Mirko Doutnak, and I think Kai Sloggett might be the other one. No, it's Roger Clark, actually. I knew it was an MFR car. But yeah, they're the 4, I believe, that didn't actually pit yet. It'd be interesting to see whether they actually take the chance to do so this time around.
So what's happened is James Zeitz, it looks like he might have had a black flag for entering the pit road, either speeding or not correctly, because he's been moved all the way back to the back. He shouldn't have been moved back there unless he has a black flag or some sort. So he might have got caught with that speeding on pit road, trying to avoid the incident with Bruce Smith where he did get that damage from.
Well,
so it looks like Mirko is going to drop down to the pits also. It looks like he might have just wait for the craziness to happen on pit road.
Yeah, well, there's certainly one thing that was reminiscent of. Bruce Smith flying through the air was very reminiscent of Matt Danson on Monday night doing the same thing in a truck. He went into orbit. And, yeah, obviously when you crash at Talladega, you crash in a big way.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing 320 kilometers an hour, so as soon as you get loose, it's all over from there. You don't crash small here, unless you're not even Kyle Busch. He saved a crash at Daytona, and it was spectacular too.
Well, even the guys who didn't get airborne on Monday who had incidents, like they would hit each other, and they would go into a slide that would last the length of the front straight or the back straight. So, yeah, Jackson Callow actually had an incident where he spun along the track, and I think he must have spun probably about 7 or 8 times before he ended up just sitting there on the track facing the wrong way with oncoming traffic. So that even in itself, because it's the speed and the momentum, as you said, the speed that they're doing around here is what does a lot of the damage, because there's just no way to slow the car down or stop it before you have that impact, and you once you've lost it, it's just momentum that just keeps you going.
Yeah, especially the fact these cars are so, especially in this package, they almost have no downforce built onto them. The rear wing sits behind the behind what we call the bird's nest, which is, or the bird cage, where the roof sticks up out of the car. That's considered the bird cage for us. The spoiler, they actually, for the plate races, they make it smaller so it actually sits behind that bird cage. And what it does is it basically just brings that spoiler completely out of the air and makes it to where it's not even doing anything. So you've got the combination of no downforce, and another thing that they do is they pull the brake pads as far away and as far back as they possibly can, so that it has no resistance on that on the rotor. So it makes them go even faster too, because normally these cars, you know, you'll have to brake pedal as close to the rotor as you possibly can, so as soon as you hit it, it's got some kind of application. Here you have to put it all the way to the floor, and then the brake pedal actually has something to it. So they do a lot of little trick things to get these cars to go fast, but those little trick things don't stop the car at all.
No, that don't seem to make a whole lot of difference. What I'm seeing, though, is that the 2 Riley Curtis cars at the front and Mirko Doutnak, it's not as imperative that you do the tyres on every opportunity here at Talladega. Fuel is probably their only question, and they're banking on there being another opportunity before too long, before they really desperately need to pit for fuel, and that's when they'll probably pick up their tyres. At the moment, they're confident that they can stay out and hold those positions, and with the lights out on the pace car, we'll go green next time around, and we have Dave Douglas leading away with Riley Curtis next to him, the two teammates in the tribute liveries, as well as Roger Clark in the MFR car, and Jason Martin sitting there currently in 4th position. And that's the 4 that will lead us away when the pace car leaves the track, Riley. Yeah,
so one of the interesting things is you have the 2 RCD cars up 1st and 2nd with Dave Douglas and Riley Curtis. You have them at 1st and 2nd. What may happen is Dave Douglas might actually let Riley Curtis jump the start just to allow him to get ahead so they can take that bottom line. And they've got their 3rd car in the 3rd row of, or the, yeah, 3rd row of this outside line, so they might be trying to do something to bring him along too. Because like I said, if you can get 3 guys in a row and they're all talking to each other and they're all, you know, telling each other, hey, this is what we need, this is what we need to do this, or they're just telling everybody, you know, check up, slow down, push, 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 you know, this, that, and the other, you can really get these cars rolling. So we'll see if they take see if they try to do some teammate stuff, or if they just kind of race by themselves. But here we go. Dave Douglas will be taking that 1st position, and he will restart. Green flag is out now, and you see there's no looks to be no teammate there yet. And so we'll see if Dave Douglas allows the number 93 of Edward Foster to roll in or not, or Riley Curtis.
We've got the 53 of Edward Foster sitting behind James Martin, which is also a Riley Curtis Designs vehicle. So we've got all 3 of the RCD racing cars sitting in the front 5 or 6, and it's going to be interesting to see how they go. Roger Clark spoiling their party at the moment. Dwayne Priest alongside Edward Foster, so he's got that to contend with as well. But we've still got the two RCD cars at the front, although Roger Clark is now up into second. Riley Curtis has lost a little bit there as he slips back into third with Jason Martin all over the back of him.
Yeah, and it looks like Roger Clark really wants to take this lead. He's been poking his nose out to get that top line. He's done it a few times. We'll see if he actually goes for it, because his thing he wants to do, he does not want to, if he's going to want to push and try to get out front, the thing to do is not to roll right behind the guy in front of you. That's going to bring those engine temperatures up to a point where you'll blow the motor. So that's one thing they need to be watching the whole race, is that engine tip.
Oh, absolutely. It is something you've really got to watch around here, especially if you get a lot of green laps and you're sitting right up behind the guy in front. There's no clean airflow whatsoever coming into the engine, and that's why sometimes you see the guys, they'll move a little right, they'll move a little left, try and get a bit of breeze in there, and then they'll slot back in behind, and it all happens in the space of a second and a half.
Oh, it's getting... Roger Clark got it up in that third row, and it's getting really feisty right now. Jason Martin was trying to follow at a 93 of Riley Curtis, but there was a Roger Clark there. And now the two MFR guys are they're gonna make that middle line run away, and they're gonna try to take this lead. Kai Sloggett has just moved up a bunch of positions.
Well, Roger Clark's now dropped down in front of Dave Douglas, and Kai Sloggett sitting alongside. He's sitting alongside Riley Curtis at the moment. And Stephen Williams is not missing out on this. He wants a piece of this as well. And Dwayne Priest sitting in behind Dave Douglas. Actually, it's Dave Douglas. Riley Curtis is in front of him. And Roger Clark leads them across the line for that lap.
Yeah, and it's getting... These guys are racing for keeps. We're only on lap 18 of 85. And these positions continue to swap around, so going through a top 10 is pretty useless, because these guys go from 1st to 10th in a hurry, and go from 10th to 1st in a hurry. Kai Sloggett's been racing around in the middle of the pack the whole race, and now all of a sudden he's up in the 3rd, actually up in the 1st. So it just depends on how they come across the line, but these guys are racing for keeps right now. They all want to lead as many laps as they possibly can.
Oh, absolutely. And they are all pushing it right to the limit. They want to get a little bit closer to the guy in front, but they also not quite sure whether they should get up right up under the rear wing. You'll see Jason Martin do it every so often. They tend to lift a little bit through the turns, and then they'll bunch up again as they go on the straights. And especially the outside guys, they're doing a fantastic job at the moment. Kai Sloggett, Stephen Williams, Jason Martin, and then I believe that's Edward Foster, doing a fantastic job on the outside line. And we've got the rest of the pack starting to string out a little bit behind them there, but it's not a huge gap, as I see Craig Lawless in behind Stephen Williams there, I think it is. The inside line, we've still got, well, there's almost a second group there, but the front pack still holding it together 2 by 2.
Yeah, and what I'm starting to see is that outside line is actually a little bit better than the inside line if you want to lead laps. That inside line looks to be really good in the corners, but you get so much of a run on that outside line that it's allowing you to lead the lap. It seems like whoever's in the front of the outside line is getting that lead lap, and it's really helping them out.
Well, that's Kai Sloggett now sitting in front of Roger Clark, the two MFR teammates, and Roger getting the draft from his teammate Kai, with Stephen Williams now sitting alongside Kai Sloggett on the front row of this large pack of cars. Jason Martin sitting in behind Stephen Williams, and Edward Foster behind James Martin, and that's the front three. That's Thomas Hinds, pardon me. Stephen Williams sitting in behind car 53 of Edward Foster.
Yeah, Thomas Hinds is now leading this race. As you saw, they got a huge run going down that little tri-oval. Biggest thing here is that the outside lane actually works because where the finish line is. Finish line isn't in the middle of the tri-oval like it is on every other track, basically. It's actually after the tri-oval. We actually saw a great race. I think it was in 2010, 2011. Kevin Harvick passed Jamie McMurray going through the trial before the win, and it forever cemented that, to let everybody know that finish line is not in the middle of the corner. It's actually after you go back flat, and I think that's really helping out this top line, getting these laps led, as Kai Sloggett, I believe, is the first bottom line leader in a little while.
Yeah, and if Darren McKenzie is seeing what I'm seeing, Craig Lawless beginning to blink in and out a little bit. So if Darren McKenzie in the 08 car can see that happening in front of him, he'll be a little bit nervous right about now, Ryan.
Yeah, you never, especially here when you're doing 320 kilometers, you want these cars, you know, exactly perfect where they're at, because if you tap them just wrong, it's going to end up being a huge wreck, and it's not going to be good for anybody. But currently you've got the MFR guys running that bottom line, and they're leading the RCD guys behind them. We've got Kai Sloggett in the front row of the bottom, and Thomas Heens in the top row up top, and he's leading our points leader, Jason Martin, who's just been happy to cruise there in fourth. I believe he's trying to push Thomas Heens to actually get down on the bottom so that he can start leading a couple of these laps.
Look, I've got to mention the performance of Phil Otto out there at the moment. He's sitting right in behind Stephen Williams and in front of Dwayne Priest. And he certainly wasn't there not long ago. And he's managed to push his way up into there. And he's actually keeping an eye on the back of Stephen Williams' car. And, yep, Darren McKenzie and Craig Lawless still going at it with a very slight gap of about a car length. Ahead of Craig Lawless is Dave Douglas in one of the RCD cars. And these guys still holding it 2 by 2. And there's a little bit of a wiggle out, get a bit of fresh air. Roger Clark doing that, and he'll move back in behind Kai Sloggett for the straight. And Craig Lawless beginning to blink a little bit from what I can see, and he's actually pulled out. He's actually pulled out to the infield there, Ryan.
Yeah, I believe he might have gotten the memo from somebody, because he went down in a hurry, so he might have seen that his quality bar is he had some issues up on his dash showing his internet quality, and he might have seen that there was going to be a bit of an issue if he stayed there, so he backed out. It's still early in the race, so if he can figure out those issues later on in the race, he'll be just fine, because even James Zeitz, the driver we were talking about earlier with that front end damage, he's just hanging on to the back there in the very last position, but he's still holding on to the draft. So anything can happen in this race, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's holding on close enough that he's still in with a chance. I mean, he hasn't drifted away from the back of these guys. He's still there, and he's still in a position where he can do something with it as they continue to hold this formation. And Thomas Hins is still leading Jason Martin, Edward Foster, Phil Otto, and Dwayne Priest on that outside line, Ryan.
Yeah, these guys are really going at it, and one of the craziest things is you can see just how much these guys are moving around. These cars are just moving around. You can see the little lines that are painted on the track. Those are there just to give these guys sort of a reference, you know, top, middle, high, kind of keep these guys in their lane. And just like, you know, your highways are lined up, kind of give these guys, you know, a little reference of where they need to be. And you can see them just moving around within that lane as Kai Sloggett just went from the top, bottom, top. And they're not wrecking yet.
They're not wrecking, and they're not lifting. They're not backing off these guys. Stephen Williams has moved to the inside line now. He's sitting in behind Riley Curtis, I believe, and he's got Dave Douglas behind him, so he's in a little bit of an RCD sandwich. And Darren McKenzie up on the back of Dave Douglas. He's having a great run tonight, Darren McKenzie.
Yeah, Darren McKenzie tends to have some pretty good runs here. Normally some really good runs in this series. He tends to find a way to always be in the conversation, either one way or another, and it's always good to see, you know, some of the privateers, guys we don't really talk about as much, you know, always ended up being up front.
And as they continue to actually hold this formation at speed, Josh Mickelmore up in 13th at the moment, still keeping an eye on what's happening with all those in front of him, and just playing it safe, keeping in touch, and he'll continue to put himself in a position where he can do something about it in the later stages of the race when it matters.
Yeah, kind of see these guys are right now they're clocking laps, but they're also racing extremely hard. Nobody's really making that move that they need to make. I believe a lot of them know that they may or may not have to pit at some point. I know some of the guys who didn't pit earlier have moved back a little bit in the draft, and that's going to help them out a lot, especially if they're trying to keep the fuel saving, because they don't have to go full throttle. This is one of the easiest tracks to save fuel on, is here, because you can just get in a line and just kind of run 3/4 throttle and keep in the draft and keep your spot. So it's a good little way to save fuel, is just kind of sit in the back and wait for everything to happen. But you're also in between a bunch of cars who can wreck at any point, and then you have nowhere to go but other cars.
And James Zeitz has actually moved down the track now onto the inside line, and he's pulling it up in behind Mirko Doutnak, and the two of them will actually draft until they get a little bit closer up to the back of Josh Mickelmore. Ahead of Josh Mickelmore, or actually alongside him, number 24 of Danny G, who's actually shadowing Darren McKenzie at the moment.
Yeah, these guys are I'm actually very surprised by the fact that we've ran this long, and we've only had that one caution from that one driver, and it's really, really clean racing other than that. And another thing I'm surprised about is Josh Mickelmore has not decided to move up through the ranks. It looks like he either A, just doesn't like plate racing, or B, he's just really waiting for that one opportunity to get moving, because he's currently out by himself, not even in the draft. He is in a draft, my bad. That is Danny G that's just kind of by himself. It looks like he might be cooling that car. But Matthew Clowett and Josh Mickelmore, they just kind of sat back and waited. You know, we're 30 laps into this thing. There's only about 56 laps to go. But that's still a lot of racing to be done in these cars, especially around here.
Well, what I'm a little bit surprised at is James Zeitz actually was in behind Mirko Doutnak, and he's allowed a bit of a gap there. And Danny G's actually jumped in behind Mirko, and James Zeitz is moving around a little bit there, but he's now in behind Danny G, and Mirko Doutnak ahead of them, and in front of Mirko is Josh Mickelmore, who we were just talking about. And the formation continues. They're going hard. They're not lifting. They know what they're about here, obviously, because nobody is willing to take a chance.
Yeah, and Jason Martin almost went through. Tried to attempt to make a pass here.
I don't think it looks as though James Zeitz actually has the pace to make any real inroads on this field. He's obviously just going to have to sit there and wait for his opportunity and to see what happens with the guys ahead of him. But
we got Stephen Williams coming through the middle. He just popped out of in between the RCD cars that were 4th and 5th in this row, and he tried to make it 3 wide to try to pass the entire field, but it might have bitten him. But he's trying to give us some action here.
Yeah, just as I was talking, then I noticed the 3 cars wide go around underneath the camera angle, and didn't realise who it was until you said something. But he's dropped back a little bit again now, and he's actually sitting alongside Edward Foster, I believe.
Yeah, we got Edward Foster. He's in the middle of 3 wide with Phil Otto. Phil Otto is just kind of by himself, so I'm not sure if Phil is going to be able to hold that line. It depends on where Jason Martin and 52 of Thomas Heens go, whether Phil Otto is going to be able to hold that line, or if it just depends on where they go, depending on who's going to get dropped. It looks like Phil Otto will have to drop down before he gets passed by I'm not sure who that is behind him. That is going to be the 77 to Dwayne Priest. Yep.
Yeah, I was actually watching that, and I thought Dwayne Priest was actually going to move up, and that would have left Phil Otto absolutely no way to move back down. He would have been stuck on that outside, 3 wide, but he saw the opportunity and moved back in, and he's now sitting back in behind, who's that, Edward Foster, I think.
Yeah, and well, it could have been the fact that, you know, he was trying to catch up, but he probably didn't realize that they were going 3 wide there, and just did not have enough time to get back in. Or he was just trying to play it safe and let him drop back in. These guys are still 2 wide for about 5 roads back, and then we're single file all the way back to 17 cars in this field left. Craig Lawless is a couple laps down due to his issues that he's having with his internet. Bruce Smith got caught up in the wreck and caused our only caution flag here working lap 35. We've only had 1 caution flag due to Bruce Smith, and Daniel Stevens had some issues at the start, so he was unable to actually start the race. And we are currently, like I said, lap 35 of 85. We have 51 laps remaining, and we are cruising at a very, very nice little 300 kilometers an hour, and Stephen Williams is trying to get to the lead of this race.
Thomas Hens is really making that outside line work with Jason Martin, and who we got there? That's Edward Foster sitting in behind him with Phil Otto and Dwayne Priest. They're really making that outside line work nicely. Kai Sloggett continues to actually lead with Roger Clark right up under his rear wing, and Stephen Williams in behind him waiting for an opportunity. Riley Curtis in behind him on the outside line. And then we've got that second batch of about 4 or 5 cars.
Yeah, I don't want to discredit Thomas Haynes, but when in plate racing, whoever's following you, that's way important. You need the guy behind you who's really good at keeping his car cool, but also really good at pushing you through into the front, and that's what Jason Martin is doing. You can kind of see he's moving around to try to keep his car cool, and also you can tell when he goes down the backstretch, you'll see that he's not pushing him directly straight. He's kind of offsetting his car to the right. What it's going to allow him to do is going to allow him to push the guy in front of him while also getting air into that front grille, allowing him to cool his car at the same time. It was a tactic that they started when they were tandem racing a few years ago, when the cars were built to where faster bump drafting with just 2 cars, and it was just staying in a pack like this. And so now it's a little tactic that everybody uses nowadays.
Thomas keeps putting his nose in front on the back straight, and then of course as soon as they actually hit the turn, Kai Sloggett tends to actually get back alongside him, but Thomas is really holding that at the moment. He's actually in front and now alongside Kai Sloggett with Jason Martin in behind him, and then Edward Foster. And on the inside line, Kai Sloggett, Roger Clark, Stephen Williams, Riley Curtis, Dave Douglas, and Darren McKenzie.
Yeah, and we'll see Jason Martin come back down this line again. He'll probably do the same thing where he tries to block with the right side of his car. The danger in it is if Thomas Haynes moves, or if he's just a little bit slower than Jason Martin's expecting, he can click that right rear and it's going to spin Thomas Haynes around in a hurry. You can see here, they've got it lined up perfectly. They've had about 30 laps of practicing this, so they're getting very comfortable with each other right now.
As it continues, we've still actually got those guys at the back have now bunched back up with the majority of the lead pack. So they haven't really lost touch at all, Ryan, and which is surprising because they haven't spread out quite as much as I would have expected.
Yeah, these guys are really, really close to each other. They're running really, really well with each other. That's really nice to see. And one thing I did expect is a little bit more teammates. I did expect the RCD guys to kind of line up and maybe go into the middle and try to get this lead back maybe from the MFR guys, or the MFR guys maybe grab another third person, maybe Danny G, have him catch back up through the field, just start making passes, and then them line up for 3 wide. Because if you can get about 3 cars together, you can kind of dictate where you want to go. You can make yourself a lane, and you're going to pass some people.
Well, there's a bit of a nervous moment coming up as the entire field starts to close in on Craig Lawless, who's doing his best to keep in this one, and they are gaining on him at a great rate of knots.
Yeah, and Craig Lawless isn't going slow. He's going at a regular speed. You're going to see these guys. Craig Lawless is running at 290 kilometers an hour, which you would run during qualifying. You're going to see these guys just run past him like he's standing still right now. It is unbelievable how much faster you are inside the draft than you are outside of it.
Well, hopefully Craig Lawless can tack on the back there, but he's missed his opportunity. I expected to see him drop in behind Dwayne Priest and tag on the back in the draft, but there's quite a gap back as Josh Micklemore has actually moved up to assist Craig Lawless and give him some draft.
I think that might be for himself. I think he's now he sees that there's a guy behind him, and you get a benefit. You get the benefit from having a guy behind you, also because it reduces your drag. So what he tried to do is try to move up into that top line and make a couple of passes, maybe so, but it's not going to really work out this time. But what he's trying to do is try to get the draft from the front and the rear, because he's just a little bit too far back from the outside line to make any moves. And what's interesting here is that the 62 of Mirko just saw Josh Micklemore unable to do that, and he's going to try it, and that's not really going to work out for him. But it is going to leave Matthew Cloet and Josh Micklemore a huge gap between them and the front of the front pack. Maybe they can catch back up. Not exactly sure. They might be right in that draft zone. They're going to be really close, and yeah, it looks like they're in the draft area. So Josh Micklemore is not out of the draft just yet. He's really hanging on to it. Looks like Mirko may have dropped back just because this car is a little high on temperature, and Craig Lawless was able to lag onto the back of it. So he is 2 laps down, but he is that first car a lap down.
And having moved up to 12th position is Matt Cloet, who had that terrible run in qualifying earlier on and started right towards the back with Josh Micklemore. And he's up to 12th position. No, actually, he's up to 11th now. He's just nosing ahead of Dave Douglas.
Yeah, and these guys are going to start getting a little bit more antsy. Oh, as you saw Phil Otto try to go below Steve Williams. Steve Williams tried to block him, make sure that didn't happen, but that's not really going to work out for him. And that was really close. Matthew Cloet has moved his way all the way up into that 5th spot on that top row. So he's moving up. Matthew Cloet is trying to make his way through this field now, because that radio message right now currently is going to be halfway. We are currently at the halfway position, and everybody on their radio is going to be hearing that right now, and you're going to start to see these guys start to get a little more antsy.
We've also got to consider those 4 guys that did not pit earlier when they had the opportunity. They're going to be getting awful light on fuel, and I see Dave Douglas pitting in.
Yeah, these guys, you're going to start to see some of these guys are going to line up towards the bottom, and pitting here at Talladega has caused some issues. Some of these guys won't notice that they're pitting, but as you can see, that bottom line that was bottom line running is now on the top, and they're just diving straight off, and yet your teammates. So once the teammates start pitting, that's about when you need to pit. So we're looking at about 45 laps or so on fuel with that yellow. And the last time that we pitted was on lap number 11. So be on the lookout here in about 10 to 15 laps if we stay green. Around that 55 to 60 lap time, that's when the pits will start opening.
Well, I've got a feeling that we're going to see some pits earlier than that. I mean, the guys who pitted back when that caution took place obviously have still got some time to run, but That's one of the two Riley Curtis cars that didn't pit. The other one, of course, being Riley Curtis himself, as we see Kai Sloggett and Roger and a gaggle of geese heading into the pits.
Yeah, and this is really going to help out those two RCD cars. They did not pit, and that's going to really help them out because, as you can see, Dave Douglas, they did not really work this out real well. Dave Douglas is almost all the way around the corner, whereas Riley Curtis is back in the pack, and this is going to leave both of them by themselves, which is not good for them. They're going to lose a lot of positions like this because they're not going to have that drafting partner. May have been a miscommunication, may not be any communication whatsoever, but they should have been right next to each other because this is going to hurt them.
Yeah, Dave Douglas came in on his own, and I was very surprised at that. I expected to see Riley Curtis pit along with him so that the two of them could draft back out. But Mirko Doutnak is leaving the pits, and he was also one of those 4 cars that didn't pit during the pace car period, Riley.
Yeah, Riley Curtis did pit with them. They both came down at the exact same time. So
did they? Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't actually see Riley's pit.
Yeah, he pit right behind him, and he. But the thing is, they just did not pit. They didn't exit the pits together. So now Riley Curtis has no partner whatsoever. Within his sign of light, he has nobody. Nobody is close to him at all, and this is going to really hurt Riley Curtis a lot. So we'll see if he might be able to join us back up, but at the current moment, he is not looking good. And these leaders are starting to come up on the pack, and it looks like some of the leaders have dropped down. Thomas Heens has dropped down. We have Edward Foster dropping down. Stephen Williams dropping down. Josh Micklemore, Darren McKenzie has got some damage of some sort, and Dwayne Priest will also be dropping down also.
Well, as things go, as far as green pit stops are concerned, it has broken the field up and it's scattered everybody in the field. So it's going to be interesting to see how they sort themselves out and actually manage to get back up to a competitive position, Ryan.
Yeah, and as we talk with every week, Jason Martin is currently leading this pack, even though he's in that second spot within this pack. He is actually leading the race. He has not pitted yet. Matthew Clowett is that 54 NOS Toyota above the 21 No Fear Mustang. He's in second position currently. Darren McKenzie, he has pitted, so those are the only two who have left to pit is Jason Martin and Matthew Clowett.
Kai Sloggett, who's actually on track in front of Jason Martin at the moment, is actually back in 9th position. So he's out of sync with the rest of the lead pack as they start to actually come up upon all the other cars that pitted just a lap or so ago. And this could be a little bit nervy going through here at the moment as the faster cars up to speed in that lead pack start to overtake them.
Yeah, so that lead pack does have only 2 drivers who are out of sequence, and that's going to be Matthew Clowett and Jason Martin. Everybody else is pitted. Everybody else is pitted so far. Currently only have 2 cars who have not pitted, and they're going to be waiting on that yellow flag because if they don't get that yellow flag, they're going to be out by themselves, and it's not going to be any good for any of them.
It's certainly going to make it pretty tough for them for the rest of the race if we don't get another caution period, but having said that, I'd hate to actually see anybody go through that pain to actually provide the caution flag for them. But leading now, we've actually got Matt Clowett, Jason Martin, then Darren McKenzie in 3rd, Thomas Hins still up the front there in 4th position, and then Josh Micklemore up to 5th position now with Edward Foster and Stephen Williams, Dave Douglas, and then Kai Sloggett. Roger Clark rounds out the top 10.
Yeah, and that probably all just changed for you because they all just came across the line. Jason Martin and Matthew Clowett have, it looks like at least Matthew Clowett has pitted. I'm not sure where Jason Martin. Jason Martin he's leading this race, but if you look at where he's at on track, he's in the middle of this pack. But he's leading this race. He's the only car who has not pitted yet. So he's currently leading this race, but he is not up front. is Josh McLemore and Thomas Haynes. Once everybody gets pitted and everybody gets back in sequence, we'll start to see where everybody is going to finish up. But Jason Martin is looking for the bottom of the pack, bottom of the track here now.
And the first 13 cars are all still on the lead lap at the moment, Ryan. James Zeitz in the 14th position in the number 19 car is the first of those who dropped the lap when they took that green flag pit stop.
Yeah, and Matthew Coates way out ahead right now, but as we said, that draft, he's going to have to really work to get that draft for himself because he pitted by himself. And also Riley Curtis, like we were talking about earlier, he's out by himself. He has no help. Him and Danny G, they're on the front stretch, and the lead pack is coming back onto the front stretch. So it didn't look very good for them.
And yeah, a little bit muddled up and mixed up out of sync there at the moment because Jason Martin leading this one, but he's not sitting at the front. He's actually a few cars back. Matt Clowett in second position, and I believe he's also sitting a couple of cars back. Thomas Haynes, third position, who he is actually sitting out at the nose of the field there at the moment.
Yeah, Matthew Clowett's actually ahead of this whole pack by himself. He's doing about 290 kilometers an hour. The guys who are chasing him are in that pack. They're doing 315 kilometers an hour, and they're about to come up on him. Currently, effective leader is Matthew Clowett. That is until Jason Martin actually pits, if he pits. So we'll be waiting on him to pit. But currently, effective leader will be Matthew Clowett until they come up on him, and they're gonna. Matthew Clowett just like he's just waiting for them to pass him and hope and pray that he can get some draft off somebody. And Thomas Haynes is now going to be your effective leader with Dave Douglas behind him, and it looks like Edward Foster is going to be right behind him. So 1, 2, 3 is Thomas Haynes, Dave Douglas, and Edward Foster currently. And Josh McLemore got really loose down that backstretch there. Holy crap. I don't know if we can get some replay on that one, but he was dancing coming out of this turn 2.
And we've actually got the situation now where everything's turned around, and it's only the first 7 cars in this field that are still on the lead lap from 8th place backwards. Oh, now it's changed again. It's all over the place.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen when you have Jason Martin there. Did not realize I forgot I have push to talk on. I was just talking about the incident that we were talking about with Josh McLemore. But as you saw in that replay, Josh McLemore just got a little bit of a tap from Kai Sloggett, and he was dancing all the way down that backstretch. And that was a nice save by him, and he's currently running 4th. That is until Jason Martin comes out, and we'll see where he pops out here for his pit stop.
And what we're actually seeing now, because of the way that they're out of sync in that pack, is that it's now recording that all the way down to 16th, back on the lead lap again.
Yeah, so like I said, it was going to be correct as soon as he pitted, and sure enough it is. Currently right now, everybody's in the pack from 2nd to 14th. You're looking at 1.2 seconds. So normally we're looking at 1st to 2nd being 1.2 seconds. We're looking at 2nd to 14th being 1.2 seconds. Everybody is 2 by 2 up for about 5 rows again, so we're back into the same holding pattern we were in before, but this time around we have only 31 laps remaining in this race. We have 85 laps that we have to run. We're running lap 55, and as soon as we come across the other side of this trioval, we'll be running lap 56. And Jason Martin is running the bottom line there. He's not fully up speed. Thomas Haynes actually stops for him. That's going to really ruin Thomas Haynes' race because he was not looking for that. He was leading the whole race, and that's going to give the lead back to Edward Foster. He has led his first laps. Jason Martin is way back in the back. Thomas Haynes did not move up when everybody else moved up. He just kind of sat there, and he got picked by Edward Foster and just did not give himself a good run at this race, and he might have lost the race there. There is still 30 laps. There's still a long race ahead of him, but that is not the move he should have made there.
As we see Edward Foster leading this one with Josh Micklemore in second. Kai Sloggett is now third. Dave Douglas up to fourth. Roger Clark in the top five, with Darren McKenzie having a great run so far tonight in sixth place. He had a bit of a shocker last week, but yep, as they switch around again by crossing the line, we see Kai Sloggett now registering as leading the race, Ryan.
Yeah, he crossed the line first, but he's definitely not first anymore. He tried to go down in front of Edward Foster, and that's not going to work out for him. Now Josh Micklemore is up on that high side. We're going to see Josh Micklemore come back from dead last position where he started. Oh, no! He's not going to lead a lap. He's going to get a huge wreck because Kai Sloggett did not lift. And that's going to take out – is that going to take out Jason Martin too? Did Jason Martin get taken out in that? He sure did. Jason Martin is taken out of this race. So our two top points leaders are both out of this race completely. And that's the second time that Kai Sloggett has not lifted going in or out of the corner, and it has gotten Josh Micklemore loose. And as you see on the replay, Kai Sloggett just did not get off the back bumper of Josh Micklemore, and that's going to ruin a lot of cars' race. So, like we talked at the beginning of this, there's the big one. That's what we were talking about when we were talking about the big one.
Yeah, that's pretty ugly stuff on track there. Kai Sloggett just simply pushing, and yeah, obviously Josh Micklemore, Jason Martin, these guys all paying the price for it. There's certain people are going to benefit out of this, but that was pretty ugly to see. Roger Clark had a bit of a butt-clenching moment in that one.
Yeah, and I really thought that we were going to see Josh Micklemore start to dominate this race, start his dominance on the front of this field, but just doesn't look that way. It's going to take out Josh Micklemore, Roger Clark, Jason Martin, Kai Sloggett's going to be having some damage. Edward Foster got some damage out of that wreck too.
When Kai Sloggett turned Josh Micklemore, it turned him directly into Edward Foster. Ed was the first car that Josh Micklemore actually contacted. So, but Edward's still there. He's sitting behind the pace car at the moment, leading the field around.
Yeah, and the biggest benefit out of this is going to be Riley Curtis. He had one more lap until that pack was going to catch him, because he was literally right about to get lapped down. Stephen Williams is going to get his lap back. It looks like he was a lap down of some sort, or he pitted. Yeah, he just went straight into the pits after the wreck, because the penalty is going to be, you're going to have to start back at the field. So what he did is he just went ahead and pitted, and he's going to be at the backfield anyway, so he's going to get a little bit extra time to fix that car.
Yeah, good. Yeah, because Stephen Williams actually had nowhere to go. He went off track, I think, maybe trying to avoid the incident, and ran smack straight into Josh Micklemore and Jason Martin, who was still coming together and sliding across the infield. So Stephen Williams nowhere to go, and he's actually ploughed in straight into both of them at the same time. So that's just absolute tragedy for those guys, and it's going to shake up the results in this race for this round pretty significantly, I think, Ryan.
Yeah, with it being Talladega, you normally get some switched up fields, because it's really easy to just kind of luck into a race here. Here in Daytona, it's not all about skill, and it's not all about car speed. It's all about being in the right position at the right time. We saw Trevor Bayne in 2011 for Daytona 500. He's able to win the biggest race we have here in America. In only his second NASCAR start with an underfunded team. Brad Keselowski and his famous win that he had here in 2010, 2009, I believe, where he put Carl Edwards into the upper fence. He gave him a little airplane lesson, and so you don't really have to don't really have to be the best at oval racing. You just kind of have to know where to be. It's a very high-speed game of chess, is what it is. Yeah, and Roger Clark is out, and I do believe we're going to bring Roger Clark in and let him talk about this race here. Roger, it looked like you were having a really good race, and it all just kind of went to hell there. What happened?
Oh, I don't know exactly what happened. I'm still trying to work it all out myself, but it sort of looked like Josh come up and tried to get in front of Kai and probably ran out of room, and yeah, it all sort of turned to custard in front of me, and you know, Josh spun out and I was all over the brakes trying to slow the car up and get up to the high line, and he just drifted up and pinned me up between his car and the wall, and that was it.
So it looked like, from our point of view, the racing was kind of at a holding pattern for most of the race, and then when everybody came out of the pits, it was all elbows up and hands on. Is that kind of what you saw from your point of view?
I tell you, what I saw from my point of view was the car in front of me's rear spoiler, and that was about it. And then every now and then the corner and the guys next to me. But yeah, after that first caution, we sort of kind of threw caution to the wind and sort of went for it. And yeah, we're doing quite well up until that point. And yeah, I'm sort of just trying to gather myself. But yeah, I think from here on out, I'll be sitting watching from the pit box.
Yeah, that's a shame, Roger. Big shame. I actually mentioned in all that it would have been a bit of a butt-clenching moment for you, but taking a look at it, I wasn't aware at the time that you actually got that much damage. So that's a real shame, mate. It's unfortunate.
It is. I tell you though, what was the real butt-clenching moment was early on, where things sort of got loose going through 1 and 2, and we ended up 3 and 4 wide. I don't know what it looked like from the spectator side of things, but yeah, it was pretty hairy from in-car.
Well, after all that, Jason Martin's actually rejoined now, but that car looks very second-hand.
Yeah, it's unfortunate he got caught up in it. I might even end up seeing a different winner tonight, which would be a little bit refreshing. But yeah, you know, it's plate racing. This is what happens. Yeah. Yeah,
the guy who's sitting right behind the pace car at the moment is the one we might want to keep an eye on, and that's Edward Foster at the moment. Roger, Edward's actually sitting there behind the pace car waiting to lead the field away.
Right. That's he was saying he was wanting to be up, you know, sort of up front for most of the race. He was looking pretty quick in the qualifying, and well, not qualifying, rather the practice that I was in. And yeah, we'll see how he handles it. We were talking about our old side drafting incident that we had here in the K&Ns a couple of seasons ago. But yeah.
Right on, Roger. So do you have anybody you want to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, the boys over at MFR, good buggers, Auto Kings, WP Concreting, RacingLeagues.com. Yeah, we've got a bit of an announcement with Racing Leagues sort of in the near future, so keep your eyes and ears peeled. And yeah, probably a bunch of other guys that I can't even think of at the moment. Yeah. And RRTV for putting on the broadcast. Cheers, Bernie and Ryan and you and Steve for jumping in the comm box and making it all happen.
You're welcome, mate. Not a problem at all. We're happy to be here. And just a little bit of FYI, your other teammate, Danny G, sitting in 9th at the moment.
Yeah, I know, but he seems to have a bit of damage on the back of his car, so we'll sort of see how it's going. I'm sort of the man I'd be keeping my eye on would be Kai Sloggett, wherever he is at the moment.
Right on. Well, thanks for joining us. And sucks that you were having a really good race, but all in all, we'll see you next week.
Yeah, all good. Thank you, guys.
Well, Ryan, we've actually got Josh Mickelmore sitting at the back there, but that looks more like a modified than an Xfinity car.
Yeah, you got a few of them out here, all looking a bit banged up, and they get a bit second hand. So we'll see who's who and where's everybody at, and whether they come down for the green flag. It looks like Jason Martin is just going to peel off on the bottom here and let everybody go, as Edward Foster is going to lead this race for his probably only about his fourth lap he's led this time, but he's got his teammate Dave Douglas right behind him, and he did exactly what I was talking about earlier. Dave Douglas did exactly what I was talking about, where he just waited just a split second to wait for Edward Foster just to bounce, and he got up into the back of him, and they got line of stern. So currently they're all lined up for the first about 8 spots, and then there's a small gap, and then they're lined up for the back spots there. And it's going to get really hectic here. We only have 24 laps remaining in this race.
Yeah, it's getting sort of a whole lot closer, isn't it? And as we see Edward Foster leading them away, he's continuing to run at the front with his teammate Dave Douglas behind him. And then the 08 car, somebody who's had a marvellous run tonight, Darren McKenzie sits in third at the moment. Dwayne Priest has settled into fourth. Thomas Hinge back in 5th position. James Zeitz has all of a sudden found himself a whole lot further up as he just swaps positions with Mirko Doubtnack. Mirko in 6th, James in 7th. Phil Otto sitting in 8th. Danny G sitting in 9th. Riley Curtis 10th. Kai Sloggett, one of the guys in that incident, sits in 11th. Matt Clowett is back up to 12th spot. Craig Lawless sitting in 13th, so he'll be happy with that after the start and the run that he had tonight with his technical issues. Stephen Williams back in 14th after suffering some damage in that incident. Josh Micklemore 15th, looking very, very second-hand. Jason Martin 16th, also looking pretty bad body-wise and damage-wise. And, of course, our retirements, Roger Clark, Bruce Smith and Daniel Stevens.
Yeah, so currently there's kind of lined up on the bottom for 10 cars. And then, another wreck. Mirko, huge wreck. That's going to take out more cars. And Craig Lawless is going to get involved in that one also. He is just about to get his lap back, too. But that was a massive wreck. And not sure exactly what caused that. I just saw Mirko's car go spinning. But it looks again like we have another Kai Sloggett just getting into that left corner, and that's going to be 2 incidents that he's caused in the past 10 laps, and you might have to have a little bit of a sit down with him.
Kai having a little bit of an average run out there at the moment, trying to elbow his way through and not being able to actually find the room, and a victim of circumstance or just in the wrong place at the wrong time, not sure. But, back under caution we go.
Yeah, and it looks like there's going to be a lot of cars that are going to be out of this one. Yeah, so it looks like we're going to get rolled back around and get re-rolled again and go back at it. So currently we've got the 2 RCD guys up front. We got Edward Foster and Dave Douglas up front. Darren McKenzie, who had a little bit of an issue at the beginning of the race when we were talking about green flag pit stops. He managed to get into the back of Dwayne Priest when we were talking about how those can be an issue. They had collided when Dwayne Priest was starting to let up. Thomas Haynes, who led this race for most of the race, currently sees himself in 4th position. You have James Zeitz, who ended up getting crashed in that first incident. He was way back in the back and ended up getting some front-end damage. He's up into 5th place, so he's having a great recovery here. Phil Otto with his second-hand car. Dwayne Priest is going to have a little bit of an issue. Actually, it looks like just his rear end has got a little bit of damage like we were talking about earlier. He'll be in the 7th position. Stephen Williams will be in the 8th position, but his car is also second-hand. So right now we've got a bunch of good cars just trying to get damage control right now.
Yeah, that's certainly one little fact of NASCAR, isn't it? You can be having a fairly average season with a couple of really, below average runs. And no matter how hard you try, it doesn't get you anywhere. All of a sudden, you'll come to a super speedway, and it's the great equaliser. You can find yourself sitting at the front with a chance at a podium or even a win. around this place, no matter what sort of season you're having. And it's all about luck and just being in the right place at the right time, Ryan.
Yeah, like we saw Jason Martin earlier. He was up front. He's leading. He's up front the whole race, and he just made one mistake on his pit strategy, and it put him back in the back, and he got caught up in that wreck earlier with Josh McLemore. That's just kind of just racing. So currently we only have, it looks to be, we've got a few guys that have left out of the race. Daniel Stevens was unable to start the race due to some issues before. Bruce Smith came out with our first caution, and he is currently 54 laps down, so he went out in lap 10. Roger Clark got blown up in the last caution. He wrecked out. And Kai Sloggett is the only other DNF. It does look like Matthew Clowett will be joining the DNF list also with his blown motor. Riley Curtis, that issue came back to haunt him with the pitting. Like we were talking about earlier, should have pitted with his teammate. He did pit with his teammate, just wasn't unable to get out with his teammate. And that put him almost a lap down, put him in the back, and now he's gotten in with this wreck. And there's a bunch of cars on pit road right now. We have Daniel Stevens, Craig Lawless, Mirko, Jason Martin, and Josh McLemore. It looks like he's about to join back in, but a lot of these cars are probably going to go back a lap down.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate. That replay just illustrates how much damage was actually suffered by some of these guys. Riley Curtis retiring with what appeared to be a blown engine. Mirko Doutnak re-entering the track now, and he's going to see this one through. He was obviously the one that got turned in the beginning of all that most recent one we've just had. So Edward Foster still sitting there, leading the pack around behind the pace car with Dave Douglas, Darren McKenzie, then Thomas Hinds. And just trying to see who that is behind Thomas. I can't quite pick who it is.
James Zeitz.
James Zeitz, who's basically come from nowhere. He ran around at the back of the pack for the majority of this race and finds himself sitting up in about 5th position. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds with about, what have we got, around about 15 laps, 17 laps to go.
Yeah, we'll probably have around 18 laps to go when we go green. We'll probably go green here in just 1 second. It looks like this might be the final lap of the caution period, or second to final lap. We'll get lights out next time around. But I went through the field just kind of by myself. We have 2 cars without damage, without any kind of damage whatsoever. Edward Foster's got a small little clip on his right front nose, and so does Phil Otto. So they're the best off with the guys. And Dwayne Priest has no front-end damage, but he does have that rear spoiler damage. So, and then you got a bunch of really tore-up cars. So it's going to be really interesting to see these guys, because you're going to see a lot of speed differences. The field will spread out a lot. You're not going to have that big field like we had before. So it's really going to come down to probably about a pack of 4, pack of 6 cars up front, and they're all just going to be battling it out, and we might see a 3-wide finish just from being able to make a run there at the end.
Yeah, it's a shame it comes down to this, but the damage will actually dictate how the field finishes now. With the damage, if it affects the aero too much, they just won't be able to keep up with the guys at the front with the least amount of damage. And guys like Edward Foster, Dave Douglas, Darren McKenzie, Thomas Hinds, even James Zeitz and Phil Otto may be able to take advantage of that as they run down the final laps in this race and try and go for the best possible position. And if they can maintain the higher speed, the guys behind them just won't be able to keep pace with it.
Yep, so lights out here, and we will go green next time around. Currently have 9 cars, it looks like, in this pack here. We have Yeah, we have 9 cars currently in this pack. I do believe we got a few cars that are just in the pits, just trying to get those last couple of little fixes before they go back out there. It is a long pit. It is a long yellow flag. You have 2.5 minutes around this place for yellow flag laps. So really helps out with the damage control, because you have almost 2 minutes, especially if you have a lot of time that you need to fix your car.
Yeah, I'm not actually expecting Josh Micklemore to be able to actually take advantage of any draft from this point on. I mean, he's the 9th car in that 9-car pack you were talking about, as we get number 10 pulling in there now, which is Jason Martin, and he's actually shadowing Josh Micklemore. So I expect the two of those to probably run together, but I don't see that they're going to be able to have the pace to stick with this front 7 or 8.
Yeah, it looks like they're just doing silhouette driving right now. They're little pirouettes is what I meant to say back there. Yeah, they're just they're here just to finish up and get some points for the rest of the night. But there are a lot of guys up front. Thomas Haynes and Dave Douglas are 2 cars, like we said earlier, that have no damage whatsoever on their car. Everybody else has some sort of damage, so we'll see if they can keep up. James Zeitz has been able to keep up with his damage, and Phil Otto will also be able to keep up with his damage. And Darren McKenzie, you also see with that front end damage. I don't believe they're going to be able to go by themselves, but they can go in the pack. And it looks like Darren McKenzie got a really good start, because he was not going to let Dave Douglas go in, but now he does. And that's going to allow Edward Foster and Dave Douglas to run 1-2, and they're all just kind of hooked the bottom right now as we get going. We currently have 17 laps left in this 85-lap race around Talladega.
And sitting in behind the 2 badly damaged cars of Josh Micklemore and Jason Martin, although Josh Micklemore's now moved up a couple of car spaces trying to hang on to the back of this pack, is Craig Lawless, who looks to have very minor damage on the car. I know he must have some, but it's not noticeable. I don't know whether he's obviously missed the opportunity to put the foot down and take advantage of having better aero than the couple of guys in front of him, because he's lagging at the back again.
Yeah, he got his 2 laps back. He was at one point 2 laps down. He's got both of those back, and right now he's just trying to hope for the best. I don't think they might be able to come back around and lap him, but if there's a quick caution, he'll be able to get back behind and maybe fix the rest of his damage and maybe try to fight for a win even with his internet issues. But currently right now we do see the RCD guys up front running 1-2, Edward Foster, Dave Douglas, Darren McKenzie's right behind him, Thomas Haynes, James Zeitz, and then in the last of this little 6-car line is going to be Dwayne Priest. So they're just kind of holding right now. They might just be holding for the final couple of laps and then waiting for the last ones before making a move.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if they can hold this together. There was a similar situation in the trucks on Monday night, and all it took was somebody sneezed, and all of a sudden the entire order changed when a couple of cars ran into one another and that sort of thing. So I'd hate to see that happen again here now after the issues that we have had, but we'll just have to wait and see. Yeah, Craig Lawless had passed Jason Martin, but they're a long way behind. So I think he's missed his opportunity. The window's now passed, and he's just going to finish this out and pick up what points he can. I don't see him being able to catch this lead pack. There's 6 cars there in drafting, and I've got a feeling they're just going to continue to pull away, and wouldn't be surprised if we see them actually start to lap the other cars in the field.
Yeah, they might lap them. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to have enough time to lap them, because we're currently working lap 72 of 85, 14 to go. So they might have enough time to come around. I'm not exactly sure. They will be running. They're running much slower than they were before. Currently, right now, they're running about 305 kilometers an hour. When they were in that double pack, where they were lined up 2 by 2, 15 cars back, they're running almost 320 kilometers an hour. Right now they're going 310 going into the corner, so much slower than what they were running earlier in the race, but they are still running very, very, very quick.
And Phil Otto noticeably has dropped off from this lead pack now, and he's actually quite a distance back. I think what I saw in the distance was he was actually running with Stephen Williams.
Yeah, so if you're in the back there, you might want to take the slower car. If your car is faster than somebody else's car, what you want to do is either A, get behind them and push them, or B, try to get in front of them and hope they can just get that front end to help out with them, you know, to kind of pull you along, because you're going to get an advantage even with having a car behind or in front of you. So if it were me and I had a damaged car, I'd be doing exactly what those guys, the Phil Otto, Josh Micklemore, and Stephen Williams are doing, just kind of stay in line, even though one car might be faster than the rest of them, might be able to help push them along.
Well, they're certainly going to run much better than if they were on their own at the moment. So Phil Otto with Stephen Williams behind him doing okay. Josh Micklemore not doing a bad job at hanging on to the back of these two, although there's about a 3 or 4 car length gap there. It'd be interesting to see whether Josh can maintain that with the amount of body damage that he's got. And Jason Martin, I'm trying to figure out where he is at the moment, back with Craig Lawless.
Yeah, Craig Lawless went for the pass, but then he went for the pass earlier in the race, or earlier within this little run here, and I believe that's allowed Jason Martin just enough to keep speed. They're going. What's crazy is that their cars are so damaged that they're barely running qualifying speed right now. So it's the last lap that they ran was a 54.7, which would have put them second to last, because that's exactly what Matthew Cloet ran on his lap, and he qualified 18th.
And for anybody who is trying to keep up with what's happened with some of your favourite drivers, retirements at this point, Mirko Doutnak, Danny G, Riley Curtis, Kai Sloggett, Matt Cloet, Roger Clark, Bruce Smith went out early, and Daniel Stevens barely even got started tonight before he had to pull the pin on that one. I believe his words were poof. So I've got a feeling he had a bit of an engine issue with that one. Up to 11th place is still on the lead lap. Mirko 6 laps down, Danny G 10 laps down. So yeah, unfortunate for those guys. And that was purely no real doing of their own. It was all about being caught up in someone else's incident, unfortunately, Ryan.
Yeah, and I think right now is when you're going to start seeing this little pack start to double up 2 by 2. As you see Darren McKenzie, he's trying to keep his car clean, trying to keep that front end, get some air going. But right now there is 10 laps remaining in this race, 9.5 as they come across into turn 3. And you're going to start seeing some of these guys start to mount an attack. As you see Thomas Haynes, he's lagging back just a little bit, and that's on purpose. What he's going to try doing is try to get a run up on, use Darren McKenzie as a run, and try to slingshot his way back onto the outside line. So he's going to just stay right there and keep his car cool until he needs to actually run for it, and he's going to slingshot around these guys.
Yeah, James Zeitz needs to probably try a little harder to stick in behind Thomas there, so that he and Dwayne Priest will actually take advantage of the draft. But yeah, he's keeping a little bit of a gap there, Thomas, between himself and Darren McKenzie. And he'll move up as need be, and just keep in touch so that we get to these last few laps and try and find a spot and an opportunity to get around. But at the moment, your front three are Edward Foster, Dave Douglas, and Darren McKenzie. Thomas Hinn sits in behind him with James Zeitz and Dwayne Priest.
Yeah, so James Zeitz looks like he's trying to do the same thing that Darren McKenzie's trying to do. He's trying to keep that car cool, trying to keep that front end clean, because what's going to happen is these guys, as soon as they are going to want to pull out, make this move happen, they're going to want every bit of that bumper of the car in front of them. That's really going to help out. So the best way to do it is to kind of back off, let your car get really, really cold. You let it get down to about 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and as soon as that 2 laps to go, you're on your foot to the throttle the whole time, and you're hoping that it doesn't get to 280, 290 degrees. Because as soon as it gets there, you're in the red for the gauges, and that starts to get on a timer.
Well, that's 79 laps now that we're on to, 79 of 85. So getting down to the business end of this one, and our podium's definitely going to come from this pack of 6, I believe. Obviously, because they've just sprinted away from the other cars that are remaining in the field at the moment.
Yeah, and I think even if they wreck, they'll be able to get back to the line before the other guys start running, because they've got a whole straightaway. So lap cars might play an issue for the end of the race, because it looks like currently you've got that little pack of 3 little pack of 2 for Phil Otto and Steve Williams. They're on the backstretch, so they're not too far behind, so they won't get lapped. But Josh Micklemore is running by himself at 280 kilometers an hour. Craig Lawless and Jason Martin are running 2x2, running 280 miles an hour, but they are right in front of the pack. They will be caught. Mirko is just kind of up by himself, running about 265 kilometers. He's running the top line, and here comes the lead pack coming up for them. So they're going to be running a couple of cars here, and Edward Foster's going to be playing a lot of blocking game here in a minute.
Yeah, Mirko running the outside line there. He knows the lead pack's coming through, and not far ahead of him, the pack will obviously catch up with what look like to be Jason Martin and Craig Lawless.
Yeah, they'll catch them in a bit of a hurry, because that time around, Mirko was about halfway down the straightaway, and the pack of 6 passed Mirko as they were coming out of turn 4. So they've got a definite speed advantage over those who are also running around.
Oh, look, yeah. Actually, they're coming up on Jason Martin and Craig Lawless at the moment. I mean, you've got 2 cars drafting versus 6, and they'll actually pass them as they go round through the turn. And maybe. Well, they'll pass them here shortly, at least. Anyway, as they clear the turn, yeah, there they go now.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, they might come back. They might come back for the end of this race if they can't latch on to the back end here. It looks like Craig Lawless and Jason Martin were trying to maybe latch on to the back of this little pack, but I don't think it's going to happen for them. Not today. So it's going to be a shootout here for the rest of the race. We've got 4 laps remaining in this 3.5 as they come across the backstretch.
Well, that pass has now actually put Craig Lawless and Jason Martin down the lap. So a position we're certainly not used to seeing Jason Martin in, that's for sure.
Yep, and it looks like they're starting to make their move now. James Zeitz has tried to make the move on Thomas Heens, and all it's going to do is put Thomas Heens is going to block him into that bottom lane, but now James Zeitz has dropped down. So these guys are starting to amp up as we cross the line here in just one moment. We come around the tri-oval. We'll have 3 laps remaining in this 85 lapper here at Talladega.
And their spotters will be on the phone, the team on the radio. The team managers will be letting them know you've got this many laps. So that'll be on their mind, which is obviously why James Zeitz looked hard at a move on Thomas Heens, but just wasn't going to pull it off. As he moves out wide again, I think he's going to take Dwayne Priest with him. He's going to try and get a speed advantage on the outside to try and pick up a position off Thomas Heens.
Yeah, this might actually benefit Thomas Heens if he can get it. If he can, because he has no damage on that car, and James Zeitz and Ryan Priest both have damage, or Dwayne Priest, both of them have damage, but this isn't really going to help him, because James Zeitz, even with that damage, and Dwayne Priest, both of them cars are damaged of some sort. They're going to make a couple of moves here on the top row, and they're going to try to go for it. 2 laps to go here at Talladega.
Look, they're absolutely making inroads there. James Zeitz just about ready to pull up alongside Darren McKenzie, who's sitting in 3rd place, drafting Dave Douglas and Edward Foster. And James Zeitz and Dwayne Priest that they're both carrying damage, and they're really putting it on here, and they're hoping to actually pull up alongside with only a lap or two to go.
Yeah, and I'm really confused why Thomas Heens has not made a move yet. He's got a perfect car. The car has no damage on it as they pass the lap car of Josh McLemore. Darren McKenzie's going to move out his way. He's going to go into the top row, and this is going to make them 3 by 3 all the way down into the final lap. One more to go. Edward Foster is leading here at the very last lap, and James Ice gets turned by Dwayne Priest, and that's going to put Thomas Heens out. Thomas Heens will not have a chance. Darren McKenzie has no help anymore, so now it's just the two ANZAC cars will be leading this one. Darren McKenzie's going to try to get that side draft working. He might have a chance here if Dwayne Priest can get back to him. I'm not sure it's going to happen. It's going to come down to the RCD cars here at the final.
Well, Darren McKenzie knows that he's going to take third. He's going to get on the podium. He just moved back in behind Dave Douglas. And,
he's going for second here. He's going to drop below the yellow.
He's going to try and pass him.
That's not legal. You cannot pass under there, and he does not. That's going to give Edward Foster the win here at Talladega, followed by his teammate Dave Douglas. Darren McKenzie will finish up third. Thomas Heens will finish up fifth. Dwayne Priest, I did miss him. He will finish up fourth. James Zeitz sixth. Phil Otto will come across the line seventh. If Stephen Williams tried to make that outside work, it wasn't going to work. So Phil Otto will cross the line seventh. Josh and Stephen Williams will be in eighth. Josh McLemore did come across the line in ninth place. And then we have Mirko will cross the line in 12th place. Craig Lawless and Jason Martin have already crossed the line in 10th and 11th.
Wow, what a finish. That wasn't quite as close as Monday in the trucks. It was 0.09 to the second. But Edward Foster doing the winner's burnout, and he'll be a very, very happy boy tonight.
Yeah, it's actually closer. It's 0.08. So it's 1/100th closer than the finish on Friday. But yeah,
it was that close, was it? Okay.
Yeah, and the only difference is that there's a lot less cars there at the end to go for the win. Still, I'm gonna be questioning Thomas Heens for a little while. I'm not sure why he didn't try to either block James Zeitz or go up earlier, because I think that would have given him a chance at taking this win away from Edward Foster. But instead, he stayed back and he got some damage, and he's going to end up in fifth place.
Well, I'm being called out of the room for a minute, so I'll be back in a moment. I'll let you start off the interviews.
Right on. So I'm going to look at the replay of the finish here, as just as we saw the end of that lap there. Just saw Darren McKenzie try to go low, which in regular NASCAR rules here at Talladega and Daytona, there is a solid line there at the bottom. Sometimes double line, sometimes solid, but you may not pass under that yellow line. This is the only track where the yellow line exists, and you cannot do it. You may go under there. You may not advance your position. So Darren McKenzie did go under there. He did not advance his position, so he'll still be okay. But Dave Douglas just went high to avoid the wreck there, and that's going to give him the 1-2 finish for RCD. So we'll run down the order here. As we said, Edward Foster did win. Dave Douglas second. Darren McKenzie third. Dwayne Priest is fourth. Thomas Heens will be fifth. James Zeitz sixth. Phil Otto seventh. Stephen Williams eighth. Josh McLemore, recovering from that incident, will be our first car lap down. In ninth position, Craig Lawless in 10th. After coming back from being 2 laps down, he will pass Jason Martin for the 11th position, who I believe that is his worst finish of the season in 11th. Mirko down attack, he will finish in 12th position. Danny G will be in 13th. Riley Curtis in 14th. Kai Sloggett will round out in the 15th position. Matthew Clevitt in 16th. Roger Clark in the 17th. Bruce Smith in the 18th. And Daniel Stevens will round up this field of 19 cars. So overall, it was a really good race. We had a long green flag run in the middle, and then cautions breed cautions, that's for sure. And it was overall, it was a really good race. I think probably could have had some more racers there at the end, fighting for the finish, had we not had some issues on track. But overall, we had a really good race, really good finish, and I do believe we're about to start interviews in just 1 second here.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely awesome race there tonight, and quite a few beat-up cars there. But we're going to go to interviews now. So where would you like to start, Ryan? And I'll bring them down for you.
I believe we're going to start with Dave Douglas. Dave, you didn't get the win, but your teammate has managed to drive his way to the finish, and you pushed him there. How was the race for you?
Hey guys, yeah, it was a pretty entertaining race, I suppose. I sort of went on a different strategy to everyone else, and that first caution stayed out, and I wasn't sure how it was going to work out when the green flag stops came, but somehow I slingshot the whole field and pretty much come out in front. So, and then me and sort of Edward had a little bit of a deal going, and I said, mate, I'll stick with you all the way and push you all the way, and second place is good enough for a win for me.
Yeah, I was actually questioning the pit stop strategy because you did pit with your teammate. You pitted in with your teammate, but when you pitted out, you had nobody. You kind of left Riley Curtis by himself. So what happened with him? Did he have some issues on pit road or something?
You wouldn't believe it. We teed it up on the radio. I said, mate, we're coming in this lap, blah, blah, blah. I said, don't slide through your box. Just take outside tyres only. And then we'll drive out together. We'll just wait. He wheel hopped on the way in and was facing the wrong way when I pulled up.
Oh, that's no good. So he did have some issues. I thought we were. I was kind of thinking that y'all had either some issues or just miscommunication or whatever. And it was for me on these plate races. You always want to pit with somebody under green, and you pit it in, you just didn't pit out. So I figured there were some issues there.
Yeah, exactly right, and that was the plan all along, to go in together and come out together. Unfortunately, yeah, like we zigged when the field zagged basically, and it didn't work out when it was on entry, I guess.
Well, right on. So, well, I will say the cars looked really great out there. We could tell exactly who was who. But do you have any sponsors you want to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, for sure. I'll thank RCD. Riley Curtis Designs, obviously, for the paintwork and whipping these up together this week, which is a pretty awesome display, I guess. And Ash Media Speedway footage and CapSafe Security.
Right on. So, great finish. You finished second. I do believe, is that your best finish for the season so far?
Yeah, first top 5 for the season. This season, yeah. And as it was a good, a bit boring at the end. I think a couple of guys had damage, and we didn't show our power. I was just cruising. Darren was cruising behind me. I think when they tried to make it happen on the outside, I just used the bumper a bit more, and I was able just to hold them off, really.
Right on, yeah. It's hard to believe somebody of your caliber, this is your first top 5 of the season. Normally, we talk about you being in the top 5, but kind of a wild one for you to finish in the top 5. Maybe it'll springboard you into a couple of finishes here.
Yeah, hopefully. Not happy about being only the first top 5 of the season, coming to a close. But I did get a W last season, and I suppose, like I said, pushing Edward to the wins just as good as a win for me.
Right on. So I think we will see you next week, and we're going to bring in, let's see here, it looks like we're going to bring in Thomas Haynes for our next order. So Thomas Haynes finished up in 5th. I don't believe that was going to be the finish place that you wanted to be in.
No. Well, I mean, going into the night, top 5 was yeah, it would have been great. But yeah, as the race went on, I ended up being up the front a lot of the time, and yeah, I was looking on, in that battle to possibly, be in the fight for the win if I was got the, made my move right, and had a plan there, had a plan for when I was gonna have a go and make the move, and yeah, I think James and Dwayne went a bit earlier than I thought they would, so that kind of changed things. But I was still going to stick to what I was originally planning to do, and play along with that. But yeah, but of course into 1 and 2, there was, I think, contact between James and Dwayne, and James, of course, once you touch through the corners there at Dega, the car just goes. That's it. So it was a little touch there, and James just went around, and I had nowhere to go but into him. So yeah, so that put me out of the fight for the win. But yeah, fifth still a good result. A lot of spots gained, more good points, and obviously a good gain on Josh and Jason having bad rounds. So yeah, it could be worse, but yeah, a little bit of what could have been there.
Yeah, and it looked like there at the end, you and I believe Dave Douglas were the only two that had clean cars. Is there a reason why you didn't try to make the pass there at the end, or try to make any kind of positions there?
Well, I mean, as I said, I had a plan in mind. I was going to go with about 1 or 2 to go. I was going to start making my move. I didn't want to go too early and sort of just get hung out to dry. So I was going to go, yeah, pretty much just about a lap or two after James and Dwan went. I was going to go. So yeah, but yeah, I just had a plan that I thought was best. I don't know if it actually was best in the end, but that was the one I had in mind. But yeah, that was sort of why I didn't go straight away, and that's why I was hanging back too. I was hanging back because I figured there's no point in being right behind someone we don't need to be. I thought, I may as well minimise the risk of contact and turning someone by just hanging back a bit and being patient. But unfortunately, in this case, didn't pan out. But anyway, what can you do? But yeah, no, I had a plan in mind, but didn't get the chance to really put into action, unfortunately.
Right on. Well, do you have anybody you want to thank before we let you go?
Yeah. It's the usual cash-centric Rat Corp. They continue to support the team, Sim Racing Collectibles as well. Thanks to the team as always, and thanks to you guys for the broadcast. It's fantastic, and big thanks to ANZCAR for continuing to put on a great series.
Right on. So, do believe we've got everybody done except for Danny G. He's our last interview for tonight. Unfortunately, our winner, Edward Foster, will have to leave early. It is a little bit later than normal, so he's going to be going to bed. And I know he's a little bit older, so doesn't like to stay up as much as he used to. So Danny G didn't have the finish you wanted. It looked like you got caught up in that last big one. Tell us about your night.
Yeah, thanks, fellas. Yeah, no, I was just trying to stay at the back really and stay out of trouble. And during that first round of green flag pit stops, I sort of come on the radio and said, "Look, I'm pitting." And then I was second last at that stage, and the 19 said, "Yeah, he's pitting with us." I was like, "All right, please don't run up the back of me." Bang! He ran up the back of me. So that was 10 seconds worth of damage in the pits, which I tried to fix half of it, and I came out well off pace. Managed to get lucky with the caution. Roger's telling me the back end looked pretty bad, but I managed to stay with him in the pack, and then, yeah, out of nowhere in turn 2, I think it was, I was looking at the back stretch, and then I was looking in the fence.
Yeah, that was unfortunate, because it looked like you did make that make some of that ground up, and you were making your way through the field a little bit, and it just happened to bugger up there on turn 2. How did you find the draft? Was it a lot of fun to be in the draft, with a clean car?
Oh, yeah, it was. I mean, I was just hanging at the back of it, floating, just sort of, you can sort of sit back there and sort of watch what's going on up front. That's how I avoided the first wreck, was sort of sitting behind. And then, I sort of planned to get back to the front eventually, especially after that last caution, I think it was. But, yeah, it just ended horribly.
Yeah, and then you had the green flag pit stops. Did you have any issues there? Or did you was it clean, or did you have any close contact or whatever?
Yeah, I got ran up the back of by the 19, I think it was. The whole pack sort of went in front of us, and they all started braking off to turn 4 before we even had gotten off turn 4. They were sort of on the apron, so I got on the brakes, and then boom, got hit straight from behind.
Yeah, and that's always the bad part about these plate races, is trying to get down for the green flag pit stops. But do you have anybody you want to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, for sure. MFR, West End Mazda, WPC Concreting, Auto Kings, RacingLeagues.com, and of course RRTV for broadcasting this. Thank you very much.
Right on. So that was Danny G. He finished in 13th position, 22 laps down. Not the finish he wanted, but I do believe we're going to bring in our race winner, Edward Foster, who managed to get his first ANZCAR Thursday Night Thunder Series. Wow, that's a tongue roller. Edward, welcome to the winner's circle.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It was crazy out there, especially in the middle of the race when you had those green flag laps. So just tell us about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's always pretty intense running along. For that long under green, lots of concentration and so on. Just trying to second guess someone who's second guessing someone who's second guessing someone else. So just trying not to run into anybody and pick the best spot to be. To just try and get yourself through to the last few laps in with a shout of winning it. So and fortunately managed to avoid the carnage and come through with it. So.
Well, it looks like you might have to start running those paint schemes every week because you'll finish up 1-2. It's the first win for RCDE and managed to get some speed out of those cars. But there at the end, how crazy was it there at the end? Just watching your mirror when you were watching up front.
Well, I was actually, Dave was behind me and he was basically saying, "Look, I'll watch the mirrors. You watch forward." So we're kind of looking out for one another. I can't thank him enough for hanging in there behind me. We knew we had a great shot of a 1-2. To be honest, if he decided to fight me, potentially he could have won this race, but we also both could have lost it. So yeah, just massive thanks to him and to Riley for bringing me on board, and it's just fantastic.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Riley made a bit of an issue of his green flag pit stop, and if not, it probably could have been a 1-2-3 because he got caught up in the back there. But before we let you go, do you have anybody you want to thank?
Just obviously Dave first and foremost. He really pushed me to that win, so just massive thanks to him. Thanks to Riley again for putting me in the team, putting me in that car. Fantastic paint schemes, those Anzac paint schemes. I don't know, there was just something about it where I thought from the beginning tonight that we may be on for something special. APCS, our big sponsor there, not only at ANZCAR but also at Riley Curtis Designs Motorsports. They've just been absolutely fantastic. RRTV for allowing me to go back later on and watch that all back. And I'm sure I've forgotten someone, but I'm just a bit lost for words at the minute.
Right on. So that was Edward Foster. And Bernie, how did you see it from the director's chair?
Oh, sorry, I was dozing off. Yeah,
that's it. You old people tend to do that late at night, don't you?
Yeah, no, that was an absolutely awesome race, and once again, congratulations, Edward. You're saying in the chat room before the interview there that what was that? Your first win since the start, or something?
First win in Thunder. I did win a race in the K&N last season, but obviously that's sort of a semi-serious sort of fun thing that we do on a Tuesday nights, and this is a lot more full on. First one. There's only been a few people who've managed to win. I mean, obviously Jason wins a lot, and if you're going to beat him, you better hope he has a bad night, and you've got to have a really good night. If he has a bad night, you've got to take those opportunities when they come. I'm just so glad I was able to do it, because it may be, with guys like him and Josh and some Danny G, even with some of these guys in the field that are just doing so well at the moment, it may be a while before that opportunity comes again. So I'll take this one.
Yeah, fantastic. And answering your question there, Roger, what an eventful race it was tonight. We saw a lot of big names suffer tonight, and it's going to have quite an impact, I think, on the point score when we come in next week at Dover. But I'll tell you what, we didn't only have the action on track, but the bump drafting going on. We have I'm going to nickname a new driver to be the bad boy of ANZCAR, but I'll wait till next week when everyone's calmed down before I pull that one out of my hat. But yeah, fantastic racing. How'd you and Steve find it?
Look, I thought it was fantastic. I mean, I enjoyed it. There was obviously some fairly spectacular causes for the caution periods, but look, I enjoyed the race, and what a strong run at the end there by the RCD boys. I mean, Riley is absolutely over the top about it. Fantastic stuff. Their first win as a team since RCDM actually was formed, is what Riley's got to say. So he's got an exclamation mark at the end of that. So the team boss is pretty happy with that one. Edward and Dave Douglas doing the job on that. And great to see Darren McKenzie up there too. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, it certainly was. It was awesome, that's for sure. And those Riley Curtis cars looked absolutely beautifully presented to remember the Anzacs yesterday on Anzac Day. So it was a well-deserved win by the Riley Curtis team. Edward Foster won and Dave Douglas too. So that was fantastic end to a great night of racing, Roger. I think Roger's gone to sleep. I think, young man, past your bedtime.
Edward, actually.
Yeah, it'd be Edward.
Yeah, so
Roger's in a different room.
Yeah.
I think you're past your bedtime.
I think it's past your bedtime, Bernie. Yeah.
No, well, I'm going to wrap this up now then, guys. Thanks for calling it, Roger and Steve. It was awesome having you both in the com box tonight to call all the
My name's
action.
Ryan.
Yeah, you'll do. And thanks for also winning that race, Frank. It was excellent tonight. But
yeah, thanks, Mitchell.
Yeah.
You give yourself an uppercut, mate. You've had a shocker.
So looking at the tomorrow night, folks, if you like your Porsche Carrera Cup, come back and join us tomorrow night, 8:15 p.m. GMT plus 10, and we are going to Zandvoort for round 8, and that's going to be absolutely brilliant to get them back on the track. It's a 1 hour enduro, so no AOSC tomorrow night, just Porsche Carrera Cup. Then, of course, Saturday night from 10 p.m. GMT plus 10, come and join Weehan Chan and Scott Newton calling all the action of the Sim Racers Asia GT3 series. But anyway, guys, thanks for popping in and doing all the commentary. I'm going to let you guys sign off, and I'm going to be quiet. So it's over to you, Bill.
Bill? Okay, I get called all sorts of things anyway. As long as nobody calls me late for dinner, I'm happy. Look, it's been fantastic commentating in here again with Ryan, and great to have him along. He can only make it every couple of weeks, so fantastic for him to be here for such an exciting race as well. Yeah, look, good night from me, and I'll pass you off to Ryan. He can do the sign-offs, and I hope everybody enjoyed the stream tonight. Fantastic stuff. So we'll catch you back at the Thunder next Thursday night for Dover.
Yep, and as for the American, we will see you next week, and hopefully the race is just as exciting as this one.